I'm Libby Emmons with the Post Millennial. I'm here with Kirk Cameron of Brave Books at a day at the library. We are here at the Library of Congress. We're at the Library of Congress for a day at the library, Brave Books, and it's absolutely spectacular day for this, and I'm so excited for this. I've been tracking your story, talking to you about it, since you were rejected from 50 libraries to have a story time with morally responsible, fun books that are not about drag queens or changing your gender. And here we are on top of the world. So how did we get here? I mean, this is wild.
It's so exciting. It gives me reason to be joyful, grateful, and thank you for following the story since the very beginning, so you can vouch for what we're saying. We're not making this up. 3 years ago, we were being locked out of libraries that were holding drag queen story hours for children because they thought our content was inappropriate.
Right.
We were talking about faith, hope, and love, and they said, we'll have none of that here.
No families, no God, no responsibility.
And today, we've been invited by the Trump administration and the Department of Education Center for Faith to lead Story Hour in the largest library in the world, the ultimate public library, the Library of Congress, to teach our kids the truth about faith, about hope, and love, the things that made America great in the first place.
Yeah, and I was just watching you talk to some of the kids. You had a bunch of kids on stage. You were showing slides of the book. You were reading the book.
They felt like the Pied Piper.
They were so responsive. They loved it. They were having the best time. The parents were loving it. I was so happy to get to see. I haven't gotten to see you in action at a library story time before, so that was so fun. And the kids are loving it. This is the kind of response you've been getting across the country.
Yes. The kids getting excited about the stories are really a testimony to the excellent story writing and the beautiful illustrations with Brave Books, and all of their books are this way. Missy Robertson is reading a book right now, and the parents are engaged too because they feel finally like their voice is being heard, and they feel like the political winds are shifting, but more importantly, the moral and spiritual breezes are now, coming in off of the sea, and it's like fresh air. It's like we're getting back to the values that we grew up with, and we want this for our children. So the response has been so exciting and so encouraging for us. And I think what encourages me most is not that we're here in Washington, D.C. at the Library of Congress. That's super cool. I'm grateful. But it's much more important what's happening everywhere else. We have, I don't know what the final count is, 400 libraries, 500 libraries in all 50 states across the country at the grassroots level being adopted by moms and dads, and they're bringing their kids there today to sing songs of gratitude and patriotism, praying to God, giving thanks, and then reading them books of virtue.
We opened up today with the Pledge of Allegiance.
That's right.
Which I thought was really tremendous. There's a whole generation of parents who were taking their kids to libraries and then discovered that those libraries were not safe places anymore. Their kids were getting taught that they could change sex. There were drag queen story hours, which are kind of disturbing for 3-year-olds.
They're kind of disturbing for 50-year-olds.
Yeah, but kids were being told to ignore their own impulses, that this was disturbing. They were just supposed to ignore it. And God was shut out, morality was shut out, atheism was promoted.
Exactly right.
Kids were being told that they needed to hate other races in a lot of different ways. It was very peculiar, and I could see relief in a lot of parents' faces out here, and other parents that I've talked to, knowing that they can bring their kids back to the library and they don't have to sit over them. They can say, "No, go ahead, read a book." Yeah. It's okay to do that. This is something that I've watched change in large part. I don't know. I don't want to give you all the credit, but I think you deserve a lot of credit for what's gone on here in our culture, for these changes that have been happening. Parents used to be feel cowed, feel like they couldn't speak out, and now they're just like, no, I don't want all of this other weird stuff. I want good culture for my kids. I want families to be celebrated. No more of this abolishment of the nuclear family, which we hear so much, which we had been hearing so much about, and that's now quieted. How does that feel, like having taken such a bold step forward in culture when everybody was against you? I mean, you were getting called horrible names. Staff was protesting you at some libraries. Other places, protesters just showed up and tried to put a stop to everything. I mean, it just seems like such a huge win. I'm just so excited for this movement of, restoring childhood to children.
Yes.
And you're at the front of this.
Well, you have told the story so well. You are right now, and you have been during the whole thing. It feels like a great win, and what I experience every time we go to a library is a win at that library. Even when there are protesters, they are literally overwhelmed and silenced by the moms and dads who kindly but firmly tell them that the values being spoken of and sung about here is what we want. And we pay our taxes, and this is what we want our libraries to be all about. We don't want the purple hair platoon to show up and indoctrinate our children and confuse them with ideas that actually lead to their harm. And what I hope that people take away from See You at the Library today is, wherever they are in the country, is to remember that parenting is sacred. God gave children to moms and dads, not to governments and politicians. And I think that that's significant.
Yeah.
Because it's moms and dads who have that special bond, that sacred union with their children to train them up and shape their hearts and minds. Governments will use children by playing the long game and warping their minds by indoctrination so that they become good, obedient little lemmings and soldiers for the state later. But moms and dads have the opportunity to shape their hearts for good so that they learn to love God and one another. So it's a huge win, and I think parents have been waiting for something to be a part of, and they feel like if I don't have a podcast, or I don't have if I'm not a politician or a pastor, what can I do to affect change? Well, you're doing it. You're doing it at the kitchen table. You're doing it at the library. You're doing it when you sit down with your children and you tell them a bedtime story and you kiss their forehead and you pray for them at night. That's what is going to do it.
And that's what really matters. It doesn't matter what your politics are. It doesn't matter, what you think of the president. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. The only thing that really matters are these nice moments that we can have with each other, raising your children properly, raising them right, to love their families, to love God, to be part of that, to have a moral framework that I think is so missing in our culture. And I was just reading today about when we deny a moral framework, when we tell people that morality is relativist, what we're doing is we're basically stealing adulthood from people. We're emasculating young men by telling them that their whimsy or their fleeting desires are what should be driving them. And instead, in instilling responsibility in, just like you were, reading that story about valor and playing on the teams and the elephants and everything, which was a really good story. What was that one called?
Pride Comes Before the Fall.
Pride Comes Before the Fall. This was a great story. Totally on board with this story. But when we give these kinds of messages instead, we're encouraging children to grow up, to take responsibility for themselves, for the people that they love and care about, for their families.
Right.
And that's, that comes from at the kitchen table. That comes from, breaking bread with your children and teaching them properly. And I just hope that this is what we're moving into, Do you think that, how do you feel about that? Do you think that we're really moving culture? We clearly have moved culture in this direction.
Yes.
How at risk is that? How hard do we still have to fight?
I don't know what the best illustration would be, but we all have children who have fevers, and all of a sudden you can give them some Advil or some Tylenol and the fever goes down, but it can just come raging right back up high and even higher, right? Because ultimately it's the infection that needs to be dealt with. And so you want to boost the immune system. Tylenol's not fixing it, it's just masking it. And sometimes political moves, like a new president, can mask an underlying infection that never goes away. That's why it's so important that if we want to see a long-term healing of our nation, if we want to bring her back to the healthy temperatures of faith and hope and love, and back to the Constitution and the Bible and loving God and our neighbor, we've got to deal with the infection of progressivism, extreme leftism, communism, socialism, which masquerades as an angel of light and a utopia, and everything will be better and equal rights, and it's who you truly are. And what it's actually doing is sinking us deeper and deeper into the fatal fever that will kill the country. So, do I think that this is fleeting, or do I think it's here to stay? It all depends. It depends. Do we have the moral courage, and do we value our freedoms and our children's future enough to stand up and lean into the things that we know are right and that God's given us to do? And I believe, as I like to say, that we are in store for either a great awakening or a rude awakening. And it's up to us and us partnering with heaven to do the right thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's up to us, you guys. So we better get that sorted out. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
So appreciate you.
Thank you.